Score 5, the score marking process. What does that mean? You have two choices when you mark your score. The first one is it permanent. Markings are there forever. What do you mark that's forever? Meters, tempo? Of course, that's it. But there's also a second part to this, and it's called the temporary. Markings that can be removed. The first one is about the logistics of the music itself. The second one is about you and your ensemble. And that changes, and that has to be importantly exercised and tried. So what's it look like? The permanent markers, highlighters, pencils. That's there. I've got them. If you look at my Lincolnshire Posey score, I bought that as an undergraduate at Ohio State. That was more than a couple months ago. It is the corners of every page has got the backing tape on it because they're wrinkled. It's yellow. I don't want to buy a new one because it's kind of personal now. It's mine. And there are markers all over that you will not understand, but I know what to look for and what to go at. There's some permanent things. What are temporary things that I use? I use pencils, colored sticky notes. You know, I do a lot of clinics over the summer for music studios and music stores all across the country, and they give all these handouts to band directors, and they give them those little booklets of those little yellow sticky notes with arrows and lines stuff. You know, every time I walk by the table, they kind of laugh at me until they know me now. They just give me a box on the back. But I used to grab 2 or 3, put them in my pocket, walk by, and every time by the end of the 2-day thing, I had like 20 of those notes, and I'd give them to the grad students. I think I gave you one, Eric, and I'd pass them around, all kinds of stuff. And it's just little things. Rubber bands, clips, Lincolnshire Posey, movement 3, version A or version A and B or version B, clipped together, rubber band together, so I can go right from bar number 51 to bar number 52 in version A and B. If you want to see my score, I can show you that. So it helps me. Now, here's the big question is what to mark.
So real quick, before we kind of dive into the what's mark, I think a super important thing to note and something you've mentioned a lot is about how it's your score marking is going to be what works best for you. And I think a really important thing and something you had us do in our conducting 518 class was we had to write down and kind of put down our own key in our own system so that like we have that written down. And while it is something that will definitely kind of like transform over the years as you develop as a conductor, I think it's important to kind of always keep an updated key so you don't confuse yourself and that you have a reference to be like, okay, so this is what I'm thinking. Because I know there are times I'm in a class for whatever class, especially like music history or something like that, where I'm taking notes. I look back on it a few weeks later, I'm like, what did I write? And so I think it's important to give yourself that reference, save it on your Google Drive, keep your notebook with whatever your key is.
So you guys have the luxury and the opportunity for technology to use it. You know, I could take you to my office and I could show you my very first conducting one sophomore year at Ohio State in 1974. I can show you my binder with you could tell it's me, but really can't tell me. It's because it's legible. You can read my handwriting. And I would write everything down.
Mine's the same way. I still have every binder I've ever had from all of my courses. And I've gone back to my conducting one, my instrumental conducting courses and reviewed my notes. And so I think that's a great point, Eric, of always saving that. And there's still going to be some of our listeners that need those hard copies. So definitely keep these notes. These are not things that you get rid of or you sell and if you keep your notes in the books that you have, the textbooks that you have, keep those textbooks as well, because you never know when you're going to need to refer back to those.
I love flipping through my old binders from my undergraduate years because there's memories in there, and every once in a while there's like Julie Elliott's phone number, who I was in love with and she didn't want anything to do with me, but I never got to call her. But it's there; it just reminds me of those days. You know, it's kind of funny, but it works. It's right there. And you know what, Dr. Payne. Conducting exercises in 1974 are no different than they are in 2020.
Yep.
Meter's meter, ictus is ictus, rebound is rebound. It's all the same. We're not exactly in a cutting edge profession here, regardless of what anybody says. You blow through an instrument, move your fingers up and down and cover holes. How archaic is this, right? Percussionists, right. We're still using femurs of dinosaurs to beat on hollowed logs with animal skin stretched over them, correct? So anyway, what do you mark and where do you get the stuff from? You've already done this. The unit study and the graph analysis tells you a ton of stuff about what you have to. Your ensemble needs and reminders list. What are the strengths in your ensemble? What are the weaknesses? Oh, you're not going to have an oboe. Okay, so how are you going to figure that? And you're going to play something with an English horn. What does that mean? First of all, you're going to have to Google English horn to find out what that is, right? And you'll have to come up with a double. So an ensemble needs and reminders list. Do you have to rewrite some parts because you don't have enough low brass? Do you have too many flutes? Do you have not enough mallet players? Bring a flute player back. They can read music and they're in the upper register. Technique can be taught. So find out what your ensemble needs and reminders list is. Your needs and reminders. You know, the older we get, and Eric, you're going to laugh at this, but I just forget, man. I just simply forget. My thought process goes and it's pulled someplace else and I forget what I was saying, you know? So I have to make a reminder of myself to look at this and make notes and how to fix things and stuff. So that's important. What else to mark? Musical needs. Do you refer to this? Let's start at measure 36 or letter D, or how about starting back at theme A? How about starting back at the first variation? Could we go back to the introduction? Could we go back to the bridge between theme A and theme B? Now, all of a sudden, what do they have to do? They don't have to know numbers. They have to know theory. They have to know history. That's what we're teaching about that. So that's important. Interpretive needs. Where's my left hand come in? What do I do with my face? What do I do with the baton here? Those sorts of things. Those also are marked. Conducting needs right there. Who to cue, what not to cue, what to back off. The trombone player, they're going to be really loud. Eric, you're going to laugh because you saw me doing that wind ensemble. I had to keep giving them that hand, say, back off, boys, or I'm going to put you in another room. I'm going to put you in 204 and you can play from there in 201, all right? Rehearsal needs. Now, what does that mean? What time of year is it? I have to work really hard at rehearsing in 201 because it's acoustically a terrible place. And I have to figure out how to rehearse and how to set up so that I can hear some things. Many times we'll do, you know, the square, the woodwinds versus the brass, or the percussion someplace else, the double reeds in the middle, or the soloist in the middle standing of the band without me conducting. So those are needs I need to take care of.